Hi everybody, I'm Bree the Plant Lady, checking in with part 2 of my weekly garden tour as we kick off the month of March right here in my Zone 7 Central North Carolina garden. Now, as you can see behind me, spring is in full effect, and I am just thrilled and shocked by how much is growing and blooming this early in the season. And I can't wait to show you around here in my whole front garden. So without further ado, let me turn the camera around. Well, last week I was really worried that the cottage garden plants would actually have started blooming while I was in Iowa. And I'm pleased to say they aren't flowering yet. The bachelor buttons are in bud, just super early. It would be kind of crazy to have daffodils and bachelor buttons at the same time. Usually they're 2 months apart, but I'm relieved to see that nothing is flowering yet. I do think that we'll be way ahead of schedule this year with as far ahead as everything is looking. But overall, I certainly can't complain. You know, I try to time this so that it'll look its best for the spring open garden, which is scheduled for Saturday, May 13th. Time will tell what the garden looks like by the time the middle of May rolls around, when we have flower buds like this on February 28th. And it's getting to be critical that all the containers get watered every day because it's so hot and all the plants are growing like crazy. I tried to turn the irrigation on for the wall, but we did have one blowout, so I guess I didn't blow all the water out. And when we had the holiday freeze, there must have been some water in here, and you can see it's a little bit of a crack right there, but I think we have the supplies to fix that. But I would like to go ahead and get the wall back on the irrigation timer, because it's a challenge to keep it watered, especially when I'm not home. You can see, you know, this is craziness. The rye is starting to flower. And no, this is not normal. It's a whole new world. Basically, this spring, I'm not going to be able to give any concrete advice because this is territory I've never been in before. You know, my advice on containers, keep them watered and yeah, roll with it. If this weather keeps up, we'll be pulling out cool season annuals and planting summer stuff earlier than what we should be doing. I mean, usually I would never plant coleus until really at least late April. But today, all of the violas were completely wilted and crashed from being dry and hot. And I want to give a shout out to David, who is excellent at keeping up with old cars. And this 64 Mercedes was my grandmother's brother's car. And we had it when I was growing up. This was actually the car I drove the summer of 1996. And David got it out of storage and has been working on it, and it's running great. And it's just really exciting to have it still operating, and it's a really fun car to ride around in. Now, along with that, I want to note that it has become pollen season, which is quite unfortunate. It's not as bad as it will be, but you can definitely see there is yellow starting to cover everything. So despite it being perfect weather outside, we can't have the windows open because the whole house will get completely covered in pollen dust. As you can see, the grain wave is bolting fast. And again, this was rye and oats combined. And I imagine the rye is gonna be flowering earlier than the oats. This is gonna be a really fun thing to watch. I've never done mixed grains before, so I'm excited to see how this all comes together. And I really love how the sun looks shining through it. Yeah, I look out the window, and actually when I pulled in last night, it was already dark, but my headlights shined on this and I was just like, wow, it's, you know, it's already close to at least 1.5 feet tall. So I'm feeling like this has definitely been a successful grain experiment. And as we get down to the shady side of the wave, the carrots are growing like crazy. They're really putting on a ton of new growth. You can see like all of this. And when I get home from Michigan, I'll have some time. I'll have several days at home where I'm gonna harvest some, and I like to make pickled carrots. So that's what I'm gonna do with a big old bunch of these. I'll definitely leave enough to be able to allow them to flower. And of course, this is a really important plant for the larval stage of the swallowtail caterpillar. So I'm not gonna harvest them all, but there's plenty of here for me to be able to eat some and share with the pollinators. Out here in the big shrub border, actually it's crazy, this Korean boxwood is starting to bloom. It's not particularly showy, but boxwoods do have flowers, so they do provide nectar for pollinators. I have some weeding and some hand cutbacks that need to get done in here. And of course, daffodils are in bloom and vetches everywhere. And you can see that this Prunus subhirtilla variety Autumnalis rosea is now not only flowering, but fully leafed out. That's happened basically since I was gone to the Midwest. But it's still so beautiful with the flowers. And the area that Aiden cut back with the lawnmower, it's all coming back really quickly. You can see, you know, the Phlox paniculata is popping up, and irises. The ornamental grasses will probably break ground soon. And all these sedums that just kind of ramble through here. I do need to come out and cut down these pink muley grasses while there's still time before they break dormancy. And again, I have a lot of vetch that needs to be pulled out. This is definitely the time of year to get it, because you see it's already starting to flower. And every flower will set a seed pod, and every seed pod has a whole bunch of seeds in it. You can see this bed is pretty well covered with vetch. As I pan over to this shrub border, forsythias are in full bloom. And they are so pretty. I don't care that forsythias are common. I think they're gorgeous and wonderful. And you can see, though, they are already starting to leaf out, which is a sign that they won't be blooming much longer. And not only are the forsythias in bloom, but the viburnum macrocephalum have real flowers open now. A week ago, they weren't anywhere near this advanced. Usually this is the tree that I take my birthday picture in front of, which is April 9th. So, yep, we're way ahead of schedule. We'll see what's actually blooming in April. But this is certainly a favorite, the snowball viburnum. I love it at every stage, but I especially like this lime green when the flowers are still relatively tight in bud. Well, as we make our way over to the north side of the house, Reginald wanted to be a part of the video. And I'm so impressed with this window box. Now, I've been making sure to get it watered, and I'm really glad that I put that oasis in there. Otherwise, I don't think it would be possible to keep it wet enough. But up close and personal, everything is growing really, really well. You can see those poppies are just exceeding all my expectations. You know, I've never grown poppies in a window box before. It seems kind of not logical. We were just trying to do it as an experiment. So I'm really excited to continue watching this window box grow out. Well, the dragon's blood quince is flowering, and beyond that, I see royal velvet, camellia, magnolias, and the Chinese redbud. There's all kinds of stuff going on. Wow, it is just absolutely incredible. So we've got a few late flowers on October Affair, but this is pretty well done for the season. It certainly has flowered for a good long period of time. You can see that royal velvet is kicking off now with lots of gorgeous flowers. This is such a terrific red flowering form. We've got the white Chinese redbud, Cercis chinensis Alba, that is all budded up with a few open flowers. The redbuds are blooming all over the Raleigh area. Again, I think it's a record for blooming out this early. You can hear that our air conditioning is running, which is also very, very counterintuitive for being this time of year, but necessary. Lots of hellebore flowers that need to be plucked and put into floating arrangements. Of course, we've got Jack's camellia blooming down here. And most impressively, we have Don Egolf, Cercis chinensis, which is a really terrific form. You can see it flowers all the way down, even the mature trunks. And it's a sterile form, so it doesn't actually set any seeds. And pollinators love it just as much as they love the native redbud. So this is always a plant that I highly recommend for zones 7 through 9. Incredible flowers. And as I make my way into the backyard, you can see that the star magnolia is in full bloom. That's Magnolia stellata. And I can't get over how big this Trachycarpus fortunii has gotten in the last few years. That was planted as just like a tiny seedling, and well, it's now starting to form a trunk, which is really remarkable. I've also got one of my favorite bulbs, Ipheian, which actually I think has a new botanical name that doesn't stick in my brain, is flowering. And I did not get this bed weeded yet, but maybe when I get home from Michigan, I'll have some time to devote to getting that cleaned out, because the phlox and the lilies that are perennialized through there are actively growing. Well, I look forward to sharing part 3 of my weekly garden tour with all of you tomorrow, and I'm wishing you all the very best. Thanks so much for watching, everybody.